Okay.
Sorry about
We
the
are
plastic.
live.
We're live?
We are live. So I'm just logging
Sorry
in.
about
Oh,
the
thank
plastic.
you.
I would have given you the
No problem.
coffee cups, but one of them was not safe for broadcast.
Gotcha. All right. I'm just trying to pull up the... let's see here. Let's use it as... let's go there, I guess. But actually, I want to... let me sign back in as... I'm logging in so I can actually see our viewers.
Cool.
None at the moment, but hopefully if we go to the video, there we are live. So if I click over there, yeah, that's fine. But there used to be a way to pop out
Oh, this will be interesting.
the chat, but not so much. That's okay.
This will be especially interesting if it pops up because we'll see it there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can have this here, and so we can see the video there with chat over to the side if possible. So we'll see how that works.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty fun. All right, so let's go back to our playlist. We'll pull up Tenchi. Continue. Whoa.
The tension.
Yes. Go straight to there.
Tenchi.
There we go.
Moyo less.
So I think that's the actual resolution we're getting on YouTube Live right now. So we'll have to see if that's a if that's just the laptop or if it's the internet connection or what.
Her image has frozen. We're not playing. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in pause.
Yeah.
So hello, everybody.
Yes. Hello, viewers. Viewer now. So we're just getting set up here for a talk about Tenchi Muyo and Yamada's first time, and just kind of getting everything set up here, ready to go. Yeah, trying to think of anything else to do there, but I think we're pretty much ready to dive in.
Do we have a an email or a number that any viewers can contact us if they want to talk to us?
There should be a chat bar right to the side of your YouTube your YouTube Live page, and just on the right there's a little chat box, and you can type right in there and say hello to us. In fact, I'm going to say hello to everyone in that box, so you know.
Howdy, folks.
We're there, and feel free to chat in there and talk to us as we go along. I'm sure we'll set up an email account and all that kind of stuff for feedback between shows. But for now, that should do for that. So yeah, that's that. Should we get started? I suppose?
Let's get started.
All right. So welcome everyone to Smoke and Mirrors. This is our little review show. I'm Brent.
I'm Evan.
And we're going to be looking at episodes 2 of the first Tenchi Muyo OVA and Yamada's first time. So the first is sort of this space science fantasy action adventure thing from 1990, and then Yamada's first time is a more recent sex comedy, I think would be a good way of putting it. So we both watched it, and we're gonna show you a little bit of each one, not massive amounts of it, but just enough to give you a feel and idea for the show itself. So let's see what happens here when we go ahead and do that. Hey, Kaiser, good to see you.
Howdy.
Glad to see you back there. Hey, Dark Devil, glad to see you're there. Hey,
hello.
Hey, Hazard.
Hi.
I think you're new. I don't remember seeing you on Hazard 95. So thanks for joining us. So here's a little bit of the first Tenchi OVA to get you a feel for the characters. A little interrogation scene.
Enough. This seems to have an opposite effect on you. You're behaving like, what's that called?
A masochist?
Oh, yes. That's what they call it.
Actually, little princess, I'm more of a sadist.
Oh, my. Does that mean you like to... Never mind. That's completely unimportant. I'll ask you again. Why did that young man have this sword?
You bonehead.
What?
Don't you feel it in his blood?
You're not answering my question.
Because the sword is his.
Don't be so ridiculous. You know this sword belongs to my brother. Now, where is he?
It's a great
Where is
example
my
of voice
brother,
acting here,
Yosho?
actually.
Half-brother, you mean, and you came all this way just to look for him. Things must be dull on planet Jirai. You royal types must be really bored.
Silence, criminal! How dare you?
Well, well.
My brother's disappearance all started because of you.
Oh, is that what happened?
Oh!
Oh, stop! Stop, please! You can stop now!
Now answer me.
Tenchi probably knows more about Yosho than I do. Go talk to him.
But why would this sword know the whereabouts of my brother?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. The sword is called Tenchi too. No, I mean the Earthling boy. He's called Tenchi also.
Oh my goodness, what a coincidence.
Yeah, right.
So that's a little scene between two of the characters there, Ayeka and Ryoko. In the first episode, we'd seen Ryoko kind of crashing the party, if you will, showing up as a demon that Tenchi did not quite expect. Here's we'll show you a little bit of Tenchi here. Oops. Let's go actually to a little bit of Tenchi himself.
What's this? An organic prison.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is a good
It's a wave of the future.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, it's eco-friendly. So, it's actually a good example of what makes Tenchi a little different is the very different technology we see in it. Very different kind of a show. And so, of course, later on they escape, and we get some good old anime-style sci-fi action.
This was interesting to me from the perspective of the two different crafts. One very organic, wood chips, wood.
Yeah.
And the other's all metal.
Yeah.
Kamadaki, go! Capture
Wood
her!
robots.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Don't get near! Stay back! Guardians of Jirai.
I've just got to play that again. I think that was Kamadake. With that little roar of his, which I love. Clearly trying to be intimidating and failing miserably. But yeah, so I think from this point, yeah, we're actually back to that scene again. So this is kind of an interesting episode of Tenchi Muyo in terms of we've been introduced to Ryoko before, and now we're introduced to this new character, Ayeka, which I think we may actually pan up here. There
Princess
we go. Princess Ayeka. What did you think about Princess Ayeka in this episode?
Well, there was a mention of her half-brother, Yosho.
Yes,
Yosho.
correct. Yeah, Yosho.
And she came off seeming like she's not following the rules that are given to her, and so she's kind of bucking the system. So I feel like she has her own personal agenda that she's trying to get forward. So I'm kind of seeing where she goes with it, because her counselors keep saying, oh, "That's not the rules. We're not supposed to."
Yeah. Well, and she's obviously, I mean, she carries herself very sort of stereotypically royally.
Oh, she does.
You know, very stiff upper lip and very try to keep control of herself, but doesn't do so well a lot of the time. And I think it's also an interesting thing about the character is that in a lot of anime series, especially, but a lot of drama in general, you start by seeing a character in a more normal situation, or you start by being introduced to the character in a situation that kind of shows them off to their best. And in this, we're seeing a character who's almost immediately conflicted, and who's almost immediately losing her temper, and trying to solve this mystery she can't understand as to, as she said earlier in the episode, she's trying to find her half brother Yosho and trying to find Ryoko, and she's found Ryoko, but where is Yosho? It's she's obviously not at her best, and kind of trying to catch up just along with everyone else. Kind of interesting. What did you think of the animation overall in this episode, and kind of what was being shown to us visually?
Well, it was interesting. I saw it a little while back, and so just sort of flipping through images that I remember, and just the contrast really caught me.
Yeah.
The environment. You have out in the country, you have the city, you have the two dynamics, and there's no in between. There's no suburb. there's almost a polar difference in the spacecraft and their approaches towards things, and even their attempts to work with each other to achieve or around each other, as the case was, towards reaching their goals.
Yeah, totally. What's interesting too to me is the obvious level of craft in the show is how, and we talked about earlier, how there are a lot of moments where there's not a lot going on, and so it's kind of a quiet and simple. But the animation that we do get does move quite, quite a lot. Characters, when they're moving, and there's they fill the frame. They're clearly not trying to save money on the animation here, and it's certainly coming across very
eye twitch.
I love that. But actually, and there's a good example of where of good character animation. We get the eye twitch, and then you see her looks away and then looks back, and it's that little bit of indecision back and forth that really gets across some of the character's feelings, which is quite nice. And again, you're seeing hair bounce and all sorts of stuff going along as the characters are moving, which is really, really nice. I agree, Liquid Snake. Tenchi is a good example of a show that has been sort of off and on available over here in the US. And Funimation picked up the rights to basically all of it and has been releasing it. I think most of it's streaming on the Funimation channel now, which is really cool. It's really nice to be able to see a show like this. But yeah, I mean, a lot of movement, a lot of stuff going on. Let me actually switch over to a different scene here so you can get a sense of movement. Yeah, like here in the
the banyan style trees.
Yeah. You see all the struggle and characters really moving around trying to do things. A lot of dynamic action in this that you wouldn't, you don't have to get that across in a scene like this.
I'm gonna whittle my way out of this.
2 days later. So what do you think about the events of this episode, of how you have the characters sort of caught and then escape?
Well, the escape facilitated by was it Sisame? Is that
Sasami? Yes.
Sasami. She seems to be going along for the ride and is more amused by the situation. She doesn't have her own particular thing that she's trying to get done. She's just enjoying the life there, and it's kind of funny that it seems that as a passenger in this situation rather than out on a mission, as a little sister.
No, definitely, and I think they do a good job with her of showing her as very much a little kid who's just playing around, probably being kind of naughty in some ways with some of the things she expects. Which, for those of you who've seen Tenchi, know that this is something. Oh, the sword's gone. But those of you who are familiar with Tenchi will know that this is a slightly out of character for Sasami as how she grows later. But definitely portrayed well as this silly little kid who's like you say, just along for the ride. Where do you think they're going to go from here?
That's a good question. It seems like we've got some early rivalries developing, but initially, after episode 1, I thought Tenchi was I'm not sure where his alliances are going to be now. He's got 2 aliens basically that he's dealing with, and the devil that you know, the devil that you don't know. Well, it's still early in the stage. He hasn't been imprisoned. Well, yeah, he has. I mean, to some degree, but it'll be interesting to see how it develops. The surprise of having someone show up in his bed was quite amazing, but having breakfast with them.
Yeah. So we're returned to normalcy at the end of the episode.
Everybody's eating breakfast all together. So just about. And that was kind of funny. The older lady part, that was
yeah.
There's the
see if I can find that moment.
Age.
Somewhere along these lines. And it was where they were being introduced for the first time. There it is. Yeah. And who's this older lady? Gotta love that. That's
do we have any audio?
Who is this older lady? Is she a friend of yours also?
Yes, I'm his friend, but not an older lady. You know what I mean, little girl?
Tactfully smacks her on the head.
You're a strong lady. That hurts.
Yeah. And yeah, so it definitely at the end, again, not to get into spoiler territory here at all, but I don't think it's unreasonable to say that at the end they're all, chowing down together, which is again for the second episode of a 6-episode OVA, kind of a surprising state of affairs. But
now, is their house now in a different location?
It is, yes.
So they start out in the city, and now they've got a country home.
Yeah, they end up right next to their family shrine out in the wilderness.
Dad's fine with that.
Exactly.
So we've got a country house now.
Convenient. Yeah, close to Grandpa.
Some house guests.
Yeah, life changes. Whatever.
Very flexible guy.
Very flexible. Exactly. Yeah. Well, when all this has happened to you in an evening,
you
do what you can. Cool. Any other thoughts on this episode of Tenchi?
Let's see. Half brother.
Yeah.
And also potential marriage partner.
Yeah.
How's that work out?
Yeah.
That sounds like a royalty thing.
Yeah. Well, she's definitely introduced as a princess, and that's not uncommon in royal circles. So
keeping the bloodline.
Exactly.
And that's another thing. Bloodline. Tenchi's bloodline.
Yeah.
That's come up there, and we're kind of wondering, does he have some special relation that gives him the power? Let's see, how was it? Where was the section? There was something about his blood activating, well, not necessarily his blood, but his lineage.
Yeah. Well, and then Ryoko says that, can't you feel it in his blood? And there's, and this gets back to kind of the Japanese side of this, where being the people who take care of the shrine, there's, the possibility that they have something, tied into the shrine, something connected to what's going on there. And it's something that is an important element of this kind of a story, where you have something that is kind of like traditional Japanese mythology, but kind of not.
It's that jogged my memory. I wrote down here ancient alien.
Yeah.
the whole ancient alien theories that they have out. This kind of fell in line with some of that. The idea that here's this ancient religious group, but it's actually based around aliens who come here from other planets, and that really caught my attention. Those shows can sometimes be addictive.
They certainly can. Oh, there's actually a moment, something that I caught just this time around, which I hadn't noticed before, and I'll see if I can find the audio for this, because it was something that I did not remember. This was about where it was.
No, what we detected from this planet is Ryoko.
So listen to what they describe over to where they are.
Not that woman. What does this mean?
We have yet to detect Yosho's ship, but he was in pursuit of Ryoko. Logically, it would follow then.
I
So
see.
yeah.
That woman in Ryo-Oki must be caught and tried formally by our planet Jirai.
I may have overshot it. We'll see here.
Princess Ayaka.
Yeah, I overshot it. 1 second.
And this,
There we go.
what planet is this?
Colonized planet number 0315.
This is a colonized planet. So what does that mean for these people and where they've come from? Kind of interesting. You know, if Earth is a colonized planet, what does that mean? It's kind of interesting.
Space travel. What planet is this?
Yeah.
It's another planet. I've been to so
Yeah.
many. What planet is it?
Yeah. And Liquid Snake brings up a good point in the chat room that you know, you have the whole ages of women thing. You know, Ayaka has been you know, they say the statute of limitations is what, like 900 years old on Ryoko. So obviously age is kind of a complicated thing here as to how old people actually are.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, that's kind of a complicated one. But yes, yeah, so certainly the plot's thickening in this one. So, any other thoughts?
The color seems very vivid.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think Tenchi particularly is one of those shows. Again, just to give folks a little more view there, where I think the backgrounds are just gorgeously done. There's just so much attention paid to making those backgrounds really pop. Use a little more
detail in the trees and in the doorway.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much to make this really look pretty. You know, pretty much any background in this show, I'd be happy to hang on a wall in my house. And still
whittling away. I'm going to make it out with my penknife.
Exactly. So yeah, no, very vibrant, and to that point, it's interesting how, like, in the ship, there's this darkness of space to the color scheme, where you know, all those backgrounds, when you're actually seeing something, you know, you're seeing, you have this sense that you're in this kind of this place that is lit from within, if anything.
Huge.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely huge. Yeah, definitely different. So cool. Yeah, I definitely agree. Things are interesting here. So cool. Then let us move on to our other episode of the day, which is, let's see if I can pull that up here. There we go. This is Yamada's first time, as we've been talking about before.
Now we're fast forwarding a number of years.
We are indeed, yes. So suddenly now we are in modern times, very modern times.
And just the animation itself.
Yeah.
So this is a recent, within the past several years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in the history, the grand scheme of animation, there have been many animes. Concepts have been conventionalized as a shorthand of communicating certain emotions or situations or experiences.
Yeah.
And we were kind of noticing some of that in the preview.
Yeah, exactly.
But for those of us who are joining us, maybe you can fill us in. What's this whole series about?
Okay.
Because we're on episode 2 now.
Exactly. So Yamada's first time is about a teenage girl, freshman in high school, who is really, really desperate to lose her virginity. And she's read all the stories, watched all the movies about you know, all that sex that all those high schoolers are having. And so she's got to do that, and so she has her personal mission is to bang 100 guys in high school before she leaves high school, which is, you know, noble goal.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, Kardashians of Japan. Anyway, I have no idea, but so this is a comedy about her trying to trying to find a guy to lose her virginity to, and how that's a lot more complicated than she thought it would be, basically. And like you were saying, 25 years separates Tenchi Muyo in this series.
So we'll see some stylistic differences as well as just animation differences. Although some of the funniness, the chibi style moments, they're still there, but they've become a little bit more refined. We saw Tenchi kind of scrambling when he didn't, but it wasn't exactly chibi. It was sort of humorous. But now we have the Eros deity as a narrator who's very chibi, and then sometimes certain moments emphasize that style of communication in the animation.
Exactly. And indeed in general this in this you can see, and this is of course a TV series as opposed to an OVA. So so Tenchi had the advantage of being a mini series that had time put in to, and essentially they could spend as much time as they wanted to do that. So there's more attention paid to the animation there. In Yamada, they obviously have a very solid animation budget, but they're doing their best within their time limits. And so it's interesting seeing how much they're able to do with that budget in that time limit. Considering that you've got the first Tenchi OVA, I don't know how long it took them to release that, but when you consider this was made over the course of maybe 6 months for a TV show.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So they're pushing as best as they can, whereas for Tenchi they could kind of spend all the time they wanted to. So
the humor is pretty well packed into this series.
It is. That's another thing. This is very, very fast.
It moves fast. There's a lot of instances that are just
yeah, exactly. So in this scene, Yamada herself is at the beach with her beloved, if you will.
So she hasn't had sex with anybody yet.
No. Yeah, exactly. And so she's kind of trying to
her best friend.
Exactly. So they're double dating at the water park.
I'm gonna work on my tan today. You should too, so we can match. It's like so PDA up in here.
They're perfect together. Must be nice. Man, she's so hot and way too good for me. But she's being extra weird today for some reason.
I love that woman's side.
That's amazing.
What do if I can't talk about it? Swim. Good idea. Hey, you. Want to swim? So much has already happened between us. It's hard to believe this is the first time we've held hands.
I love that she's having such a great time. This is awesome. I'm glad I came. A lot of stairs. What the? Where are we?
Oh my god, so fun!
Can we do something else first? Heights. I don't like heights.
Are you ready? He's making his move.
Out of terror. Yeah, not so much.
Come on, let's go. I want to ride it all day long.
What?
Yay, again!
Yeah. She's having far too much of a good time.
Takeshita!
Hey guys. Are you going to be okay, Kosada? You want us to take you to lie down?
I love that. He's all
Extra hard, please.
Zombie.
Right.
the threesome.
What? No way! Does he swing that way? Why was he holding him like that? Keep him out of your pervy voiceovers!
Voice love.
Yep.
You were afraid on the slide? That's why you were grabbing me?
Well, yeah. I'm kind of a wuss about heights.
Can you imagine? Can you believe that?
He was not grabbing me.
I know. Terrible. And then later on, they of course have the traditional Japanese summer festival situation where the girls dress up in yukata, which are these simple cotton robes, very traditional Japanese outfits.
Jeepers, Yamada looks so hot in that.
You look so beautiful tonight.
Matsuo is so freaking smooth. Wish I could be that way. So,
I gotta pee.
She's so straightforward.
Yeah.
You can't just stand there if you expect to score points.
but
Don't try to explain anything.
Yeah.
And don't try to make any excuses for your behavior.
what do I say then?
Don't say anything. Just hold her. That'll mean so much more to her than words.
The good counsel of friends.
Yeah. Not always the best advice.
Not
I just gotta
always.
say.
Not always.
but-
In this case.
Yeah.
I'm so afraid of falling off the stupid water slide. Why didn't he just wear a floaty or something?
A floaty.
Yeah. Sure.
What a stud. Got my water wings.
Confused him like that.
Yamada. We're not on a slide now. We're not on a slide now?
It's okay.
Smooth.
I forgive you.
If I were W.
W.
That's
yes.
McDonald's upside down.
Yeah. Imagine that. Yeah. Get away with a little bit of stuff. The anime series Shirobako that came out recently had issues with copyright. And so apparently some of the Japanese companies are getting a little more aggressive about anime series, including very obvious parodies of things in there.
This one had several that I found kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. What there was a Coca-Cola that was emulated somewhere at some point.
Yeah, the blue Coca-Cola bottle.
The blue
somewhere.
Coca-Cola bottle, but it said Coco as in C-O-K-O.
There we go.
Cola, and then instead of Starbucks Cafe, there was a Starbucks
Cafe. There we are.
so it's kind of tricky because there's so many things these days that are made by somebody that has a copyright. I mean, everything in this room practically somebody made has potential copyright from. How do you cover all that up? It's just endless.
Yeah, and people don't go to the local mom and pop coffee shop. They go to Starbucks.
Yeah. I mean, what am I going to cover up the Sony on my headphones? And no, this is not a microphone. This is
it's amazing when you start to get eyes for that, and you notice on a table there'll be the label turned, and then one label facing the camera.
Product placement.
Exactly.
That might be a new wave for anime if they want to. Hey, we'll place your product.
Yeah, could well be. I'm sure it happens. More than we expect. McDonald's is the classic anime. Exactly, Matt. Good to see you, by the way, Matt.
I think there's some stock products that are placeholder products that people use in place of whenever you can't use a real product, you use this product on set for movie sets.
Yeah, I've come across. There's I'm going to forget all the names, but there's a set of Hollywood snack machines and vending machines and so forth, and they've got and it's amazing how they managed to make something like McDonald's, not McDonald, but like McDonald's chips, and you don't even notice it, and they're just this generic green packaging, and that's just what
it passed legal. Okay,
yeah, exactly. And every sitcom just has all these generic things in there, and that's the way you do it.
Coca-Cola.
There we go. Yep. What are you gonna do? So getting back to our earlier point about animation, it's interesting also too how much brighter Yamada's first time is than Tenchi is.
Oh yeah, the colors are wow.
And that's actually partly to do with changes in technology, because back then all of that color work was done on tables with ink and paint.
Real ink,
real paint.
So this isn't real ink?
This is all on the computer.
All digital.
All digital.
So the color gamut that they have on a computer, there's 65 million colors plus.
And they're all doing that on a bright LCD screen. So there's a tendency to go a little brighter with the colors because that's just what you're seeing.
A little more saturation, and then I suppose the flexibility when you're not working with something that absorbs light, you're working with something that generates light.
Yeah. And then of course you also have the advantage that on a computer you can instantly brighten and darken the image, so you can be a little more flexible with your coloration when you're actually coloring it. And then when you get to a shot, in fact, here's a good example of where they probably came in and added a bright light source on the shot in the upper right there, as you can see, just to kind of give it that bright daylight, coloration as opposed to anything else. Yeah,
And that was it.
But yeah, and like you say, obviously a much more refined and specific set of like, oh yeah, here we go,
the condoms.
Yeah, the condoms. They have to
Japanese condoms.
They have to go shopping.
They did give some advice in here that I thought was kind of a bad advice. You don't want to keep a condom in your wallet because the heat deteriorates it.
Yeah.
So even though that's a kind of a thing that people do, it's probably not good if you want to keep from having a problem.
Yeah. At the very least, swap that out frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Fresh is better.
Fresh is better. Yeah, in so many ways. But and this actually gets to another point. I love the best friend's expression, and it's like, why am I here?
Look at her. Oh.
Give me a break. But and something we talked about with episode 1 is how upfront this show is.
Yeah.
About so many things.
This is amazing. I mean, it's straightforward. Here it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen condoms referenced. Anywhere.
Yeah, this is I've seen allusions to them, but this is here it is on the shelf. Here's variety.
Yeah, here's the boxes look like. Here are some logos. It's pretty amazing.
And even the consideration, what if I have too many? What if he sees them? Is he gonna think, what's he gonna think of me? Or what's she gonna, and I mean, it's things people really think about.
It is. And one, like we were saying, how in that first episode where they were doing the, why doesn't he invite me in? Should I invite her in now? Why haven't I invited her in yet? It's all stuff that runs through all of our heads with these sorts of things. It's definitely different.
Like that? I don't think. But maybe I should carry a condom just in case.
Actually, let me just go back here and show another little animation bit.
Isn't like that.
So watch the light there.
But maybe.
So that is a lighting effect where they obviously passed a bright light effect over the shot just to make that work.
Maybe I should carry a condom just in case.
What
are you doing? I can't go in there. It's too soon. I'm just not ready.
This is an experience I think a lot of people can relate to.
Absolutely.
Fear of the first condom buy.
And of course, she has stacks of them. Huge numbers of boxes.
Oh, the different sizes.
Yep. What do they mean? So let's mention this character here before we go any further.
Oh yes, Eros deity.
Eros deity. So this is something I haven't actually dug into too much here, but this whole idea of you have your own personal, deity of whatever kind, that's sort of following you around and is kind of part of you. Of course, in Yamada's case, it's a sex deity. What else would it be? But this idea is kind of her. And it's not really her sex drive, really. No. It's more just her drive, eroticism, if you will.
And what's funny is it's almost portions of her conscience.
Yeah.
Because it advises her, hey, don't steal the fellow's umbrella. So it's got some elements of conscience to it. So it makes a great narrative device. But it doesn't say this is her reflecting on herself. As we saw earlier, she had a little mini me that she was talking to about herself. But this is more of the subconscious, the drive and the morality and Still, you got to get.
Well, and it's one of the neat things about this approach to it is that it doesn't take that as a singular, one note kind of approach. It is, like you say, this is one part of her subconscious, and it's aware of times when you should be more aggressive and times when you shouldn't be quite as aggressive. It's kind of nice.
Yeah,
but
it's a great way of getting outside of just literally what's there in the room.
Yeah.
It's hard to get inside somebody's head.
Yeah.
And see sort of the motivating factors that aren't necessarily vocalized and they're not self-reflection. So how do you get inside somebody's head and really be inside? And that really gives the storytelling a way of doing that.
Yeah. And of course, this goes back to all sorts of chibi characters that show up in various anime series as commentators and narrators and so forth and so on. I'm reminded of Babbitt in Kadocha, for those of you who've seen that show, who is a little bat that shows up and says, kids never try this at home, stuff like that. Very important in that show. So there's that tradition, but it's neat having this as kind of a like a view inside the character's head, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, her sister peeks in.
That's right.
What must her little sister think?
Yeah, that's just kind of weird, but a lot of fun. So there's a conversation going on right now in the chat room about buying anime and how to afford anime, if you will.
It is tricky because it does get expensive, but it's not nearly as expensive for us in relation to what it costs for folks in Japan.
Exactly. Much less in a lot of other countries too. Like I think Matt was saying that in the UK it can get really expensive as well, depending on what you're buying. And again, it depends on all sorts of factors. You've got lots of different releases in different countries, and then of course you have the idea that if you wait a while, maybe Funimation will release a save edition where it's $25 for an entire series.
I've done that a few times, and unless it's a series that I've seen a bunch of episodes and I have to get the box set with a little gift or whatever, sometimes those save editions are fantastic because you can get the entire series and it's at a reasonable enough price that it's doable.
Yeah.
You can still go to the convention and enjoy it and not feel like you've blown your whole wad on just a few purchases.
Yeah, exactly. And Yamada's First Time is a good example of a show where I started watching that, I think, fan sub when it came out, and then it started streaming officially on Funimation. I watched some of it that way. And then I ended up buying it on DVD when it came out because I was like, I kind of want to support this show. I want to support something this unusual. But then that also gets into this issue of you watch it streaming and that's great. But sometimes you want to share things off. Sometimes you want to be able to show this to people. And if the stream isn't working or if you can't get it to work or whatever,
having a hard copy, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Put it in pop, hit play.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about my internet connection or licensing. I've got the copy.
Yeah. And I think we all know people whose internet connection is not that great. Marginal, exactly.
It's tough. I've found a number of times something that's unlicensed and fans will sub it, and one that I found that just really caught me was Dojin work. So somebody had subbed it, and the subs were so funny. The show was, I was enjoying it so much. As soon as I saw it come out at one of the conventions, the merchandise booths, I was like, I'm gonna get it. I didn't wait for a box set or anything. I said, I've got to get it the one time I see it. So it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes those fan subs are just fantastic.
Yeah,
they
add in sometimes things that I wish that Funimation would.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's editor's notes that explain, well, this is a cultural thing. Yes, at the end of the school year, boys do cut off the buttons off their suit and give it to their top girl, their mom, their girlfriend, and things like that. And I never would have gotten that from the context. From watching that. From some of the Funimation releases, but the authors of the fan sub figured, hey, this is worth noting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a complicated thing too. I mean, Crispin Freeman talks a lot about how you have to get everything out there in the show as it exists. You know, the show is the performance, so you have to make everything about the show as clear as possible. Which is why sometimes, especially in his ADR work, when he's actually, you know, massaging the text for the show, he will take kind of throwaway lines and insert references to Japanese cultural references or Japanese cultural elements that, you know, aren't there technically in the original line, but help explain to the audience what's going on. And it, you know, there are a lot of things of Japanese culture that we just wouldn't know unless it was explained to us.
Yeah,
and it's not that simple. Yeah, it's an interesting situation, but I gotta say I'm really enjoying Yamada's first time, and one of the reasons is I can jump over to
Well, she's referred to her friend as F Cup, but
yes,
there's also someone else she's referred to as F Cup.
There is indeed. So a challenger appears in the second half.
There's our blue
Coca-Cola. Little sister as well. Also the leopard print chair. I was kind of weird, or certainly unusual.
I've seen a number of things like that stylistically in Japanese just items or articles.
Yeah. Distinctive, I guess. Yeah. So a challenger appears. Yeah, exactly. And so they have to figure out what the heck's going on with the new girl that the main character likes, and I think, of course, no one will know it's her. I think, you know, we both figured out within about 30 seconds that this was the childhood friend.
Yes,
but that's okay.
The childhood friend, is that a recurring theme?
That it is indeed. Well, and it's also a good example of the difference between Japanese culture when you're living in these very densely populated, you know, environments. You're much more likely to have lived with kids of the same of opposite gender, you know, next door over, 2 doors down, things like that, as opposed to the suburbs here where you may interact with them, but you know, they're a ways away. So childhood friends are a very common thing, and of course it makes a very simple and very easy romantic possibility. You know, someone who's there, non-threatening, but also a possible romantic interest. Very convenient. And so here's the classic backyard barbecue
cookout.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it wasn't a romantic dinner between the two.
No.
It was a family-friendly cookout.
Exactly.
And there's his big sister.
Mm-hmm. Very, shall we say, liberal. Big sister.
I can't say that, she said in the back in the previous episode. And there's the rival, F Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Childhood friend.
Like, yeah, not quite so much. and again, let's get to some of what we're talking about in terms of artistic differences. How you have the
the dark shroud around it. The hollow eyes,
the shock, and even those horizontal lines for the older sister too. Nostalgia, I suppose. But yeah, definitely a very distinctive visual there.
Point with the shish kebab. She lives here. She lives there.
There. Oh, very normal.
Childhood friend.
I see.
Oh,
yeah.
Playing doctor for the first time.
No! Don't worry.
The imagination she has.
Yeah. But then, of course, you have the realization that not that simple either.
Oh, it's awesome.
I'm glad. I thought if you liked my cooking, then maybe you'd want to, maybe you'd like to, I gotta go! Seriously? Talk about clumsy. No one panic, the grub is safe. Thanks.
Love does make people goofy.
It does, yep.
You okay? So, yeah, there's something I've been meaning to ask you about for a while now. You really like cooking, don't you? I can tell.
Yes!
You're gonna make a great wife someday then.
Wait a minute. She's never even told Kosta how she feels?
It's been 10 years. There's nothing going on between them. It would be too weird. They're like family.
Kusada's not the only naive one.
I love their analysis of her. Yeah.
Not so much. Yeah, exactly. Ooh. Gotta love that. Anyway, but yeah, so that's
food truck.
Yeah. And this is actually a good example of what I really like about the show is how yeah. Is how it approaches romance and those sorts of things. How Yamada is just trying to lose her virginity, but very quickly she has feelings for this guy because she's trying to lose her virginity to him. I mean, there's
no way of separating them.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
As much as she wants to. I'm just gonna do it. He's just a guy. He's the first of 100. Oh, that's not gonna. There's no way that's gonna happen.
Exactly. And it's really neat seeing them.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah. A little bit of
was that a voodoo sort of
voodoo doll of
her rival?
I think so. Yes, trying to cause a little psychic mayhem there.
The lockers and the shoes.
Lockers, the shoes. Very classic. But it's neat seeing a show that, despite its subject matter, is very very sweet.
Yes. It doesn't treat it in a crass or crude manner. It treats it more in a, well, here's really life,
Yeah.
She's desiring to make this change, and she has no clue about romantic issues, and she's going through the learning process, and we can enjoy that with her through her perspective and her drive, while her friend has a little bit more experience and savvy in those matters, tries to help her along. It's good to see it from. It's a perspective I've never really seen.
Yeah, exactly. It certainly deals with these things much more directly. And there's certainly plenty of shoujo series. Off she goes. With a little bit of panty flash, just for good measure.
She can't see.
Yes.
She's waving to the poster. Your glasses.
Hey.
Thank
you so much. You. But
what was her phrase? She must be destroyed. Oh, the Twilight Zone. I love that shorthand that suddenly goes into the blue wavy. Whoa! I've had some days like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you need a little more coffee. And again, getting to that sweetness where suddenly she realizes, suddenly she kind of volunteers to be the friend to F Cup here, which is kind of nice. But there's something about this I wanted to mention, but it's not coming to my head.
Well, she starts out. It's kind of funny. I think this is a real case scenario because people don't usually want to make enemies.
Yeah.
And it's hard to somebody who's not affronted you in the first place to suddenly become their enemy. And it's so much easier to make friends. However, that was not what she was setting out and to do initially. She was going to destroy this girl. But she sees she's a real person, and of course her friend is like, "Well, you got to do something," and she's lamenting. Oh, what's going on here? She's sabotaging herself.
Yeah, everything's always more complicated.
A, B, C. Justin Cook, producer.
Hey,
Hunter.
Nice.
Justin Cook. He's a nice guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bumped into him at a convention. He goes to. I think it was it Anime USA or Katsucon, one of the local DC ones.
Oh, cool. Good to hear. Yeah, the Funimation folks try to make it out to conventions.
Yeah. If you get a chance to go up and meet and greet them. They're real people.
Exactly. Just like these. Wait a minute.
Well.
Oh, I know what I want to mention. What's interesting about Yamada is that we see in lots of shoujo series, lots of shows aimed at girls, these sort of relationship ups and downs, but they're often a lot more dramatically presented. You know, it's a lot more over the top. It's a lot more, emotions flaring.
The over the top thing makes it more harder to identify with on a personal level. It's great for fantasy, but this makes it more
tissues. Yeah.
Tissues.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Right as I say that. It makes it more identifiable to an audience because they can relate to a lot of the experiences.
Yeah.
The naivety, trying to overcome naivety, the successes and failures of developing a relationship. Her ambition seems pretty high.
Well, I think also a lot of times when you're younger, you want something big and bold. You want to feel like high school is this, this clash of titanic, desires and feelings and so forth. And I think as you get a little more perspective on that, you can kind of put it in its place. And so this is that slightly more realistic view of what it's actually like, which is just kind of nice.
I gotta say, this series is got to be one of the funniest series I've seen in a long time, if not the funniest. I mean, I laughed so much my sides hurt.
Yeah, it's a fun one, and like we were saying, well animated, very clean, very crisp animation. Really enjoying the dub. I think the actors doing a great job of that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's a fun one. Cool. So so those are our thoughts on that one. So next time we'll be moving on to the next episodes of each of these. Just scrolling back up through that. Yeah, Mac's going to talk. I think they really do look good. I certainly agree that KyoAni is kind of the big example of this now, of making the modern stuff really, really high quality visuals, and definitely designed more for high def.
And the clarity and detail in the background on these is it's quite impressive.
It is.
And of course 20 years of technology, I'm sure that does help. There's a certain feel that's different though.
It is.
And the old hand-drawn stuff, it has a different I don't know, je ne sais quoi.
It does. Well, there's a certain there's handcraftedness to it, which just feels different. Plus, to that point, when a lot more of that work has to be done on the front end, where all that has to be planned out and designed and animated, and then you're not doing that much on the post-processing end, where now there's a bit more attention paid towards that end of things. It just creates a different style. You're planning ahead more than now, where you can do a little bit more cleanup afterwards. Nothing wrong with either style, it just makes it different. But I have not seen Love Chunibyo. No. I have heard of it, but not seen it though. But yeah, Shirobako, I agree. Shirobako has a fairly similar visual style to this in terms of being more bright and clear, and also being pretty realistic in that sense. Not so much about the virginity though. Cool. So we all right.
So the opening music. Any?
Oh, the opening theme.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of fun. Trying to think back to it actually as a quick reminder to myself.
There's some shows where I just really get into an opening song, or in a rare occasion a closing song that I just love.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. It creates a mood that really sets up everything.
Yeah, and this is a really fun one. And I think it gets across that upbeat, happy sense of the show. And again, kind of a somewhat more ecchi approach.
I love that.
I
want to do that now. That's pretty cool. Try erase me.
But and obviously, the elements here are pretty standard in terms of the visuals, but they certainly get across what they need to.
Oh,
Hey.
foreshadowing. Kisu.
Yeah. I'm definitely curious about some of those characters we see. Oh.
You know, in contrast, I think she'll have success having some relationship, and that's one thing that I found sometimes not fulfilling in some animes. Right, the guy never really gets to be with the girl. They always drag it on.
Yeah,
and they never really form a couple or have, you know, it's like always the tension, but never quite resolves. And seeing a tension that looks like it has some hope to develop. That's encouraging. That says to me, it might happen for me.
Well, it's tough, you know. Obviously, the pressure in anime is to make a franchise that'll last forever. And if he chooses one girl, well, then the franchise is over. You know, so
how to keep from doing that? That's tricky.
Yeah, it is. You know, going back to Tenchi, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that one of the ways they've handled that is by suggesting that he chooses one girl, and then in other shows just kind of pretending that didn't happen, and just kind of having different branching storylines within that franchise. And that's certainly one way of doing it. But it's tough to figure that one out. Yeah, so Azumanga is an excellent example of a fun comedy.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, it's a good example of a show where you have to explain to folks that, okay, this is silly. It's absurd. Just get
Osaka.
Oh, poor Osaka. Oh.
And it's funny in the English dubs how they translate that voice to sort of a southern, somewhat southern voice. So geographically, but she's so cute. I mean, daydreaming with a little. What if they fell? Oh, her daydreams. Azumanga.
Yeah,
it's a fun one.
It absolutely is. But
that's another good one. For
yeah, I agree. I'm kind of surprised no one's re-released Azumanga Daioh in quite a while. I mean, with the success of Lucky Star and a lot of the other recent absurd comedies, that'd be a great one to bring back in. It's 26 episodes, a good amount of material. It could be that with the success of what is his Yotsubato or Yotsuba, the manga series by the same creator. Very successful manga series. In fact, we can let's try this. Yotsubato.
Oh, cool.
Oops. Yotsubato. So for those not familiar with this is the recent series by the same creator. It's called Yotsubato. The ampersand is to in Japanese. A lot of folks just call it Yotsuba. And it's about I believe she's a 6-year-old girl and her just general adventures throughout the day.
She's got a big bundle of sunflowers there.
Very sweet series. It is.
It looks like she pulled them up from the roof.
She probably did. She probably did. That would be Yotsuba. But it's basically just about that sort of very childlike experience of living with Yotsuba Kawaii.
It's cute.
Of life and experiencing things and trying to understand how things work. It's very important.
I'd like to print that out for work. have that on a stack of Post-its and every time slap. Here you go.
Yeah. But this is a very successful manga, and Hiroki Azuma, the mangaka, has said he's not particularly interested in animating it because he designed it very much for manga. And he said, it's not that he would despise an anime adaptation, but he's like, I don't think it would work as anime, so I'm not pushing for it. So I wonder if maybe his other properties are a little harder to get or something along those lines. I don't know.
I wonder how many manga are designed originally with the intent and idea that they are eventually going to try and develop it into an animation.
It's a good question.
Because writing with that in mind may influence the manga story itself.
Exactly.
And to what degree would that really influence it? Because how much variation do manga have versus the animation? In some series they stray, some they stay close to the original.
And of course, it's complicated by the fact that, for example, it's the publisher's decision to pursue an anime series. You know, the person drawing the manga doesn't have the time or the money or the inclination to go to an anime studio and say, "Please animate this." It's the publisher who's going to pursue that. So, you know, for the mangaka, the manga writer and drawer, it's that question of, okay, how important is that to me? Now, obviously, if you're submitting a manga to a magazine or to a publisher, and you can say this is ideal for an anime series, that's going to raise you up a few notches in your pitch. But then there's the other side of the coin of, okay, how much are you planning for the future rather than just trying to make your manga as effective as possible? So it's a balancing act.
Merchandise.
Right, exactly. You know, you always want that. It's always going to be important. But it's a good point. Is that how do you do that? How do you handle that? Now we're talking about language. Sorry, reminds me of a comedy sketch. We're talking about language. Yes, the Spanish dubs.
¿Hablas español?
Hey, Los Caballeros del Zodiaco.
Wow. I only know a few palabras.
Yeah, I do not know very much Spanish. Very, very little. YouTube is a very popular figure character. He shows up a lot in little figures sort of running around. And it's where the Danbo cardboard robot comes along. So if you've seen drawings of a little cardboard robot that's got a big head made of cardboard, that's where that comes from. And it actually got picked up. Let me see if I can, again, kind of show you. This is kind of a fun thing.
Oh.
So that's Danbo, which is actually one of the characters from the show. Dresses, gets in these boxes and walks around like a robot. And so it's been grabbed by a lot of various people to do little dioramas and things.
I could actually do this for cosplay.
Hey, there we go. Well, it also got picked up by Amazon JP. So they use
the sponsored
box.
Product placement.
Yes, they've done some fun stuff with official art and so forth.
The campfire. Careful.
Yeah, that's a dangerous one. Danbo Adventures.
That's cute.
But as with everything, it becomes its own little world in and of itself. It's a lot of fun. But actually, speaking of dubs, I wanted to mention something. There's an anime series called Martian's Successor Nadesco, which is a parody of giant robot shows.
Oh,
it's a lot of fun. 26 episode series, late 90s, post Evangelion, so making fun of Evangelion as well as other things. And one of the things in there is that all the characters in the show get addicted to watching a cheesy 70s giant robot anime series. So in between battles, they're watching episodes of this really ridiculous 70s show, which of course they make up within. It's not a real show, but it's in there.
A parody within a parody.
Parody within a parody. It's very meta. And so it's I don't remember the name of the series. Well, I'm gonna have to look it up now, because I'm now thinking of names of actual series opposed to the ones in there. Gekiganger, yes, Gekiganger 3 and Gekiganger 5 and Gekiganger, all sorts of things. There's this thing where while you're watching Nadesico, they'll sometimes show clips from Gekiganger 3 and, go fight Gekiganger V, all these different shows. And so it's dubbed the way bad 70s anime was dubbed. They dub it differently. They do a Japanese bad dub and they do an English bad dub.
Oh.
So when it was dubbed back in Japan, they dubbed the lines the way anime was badly dubbed in the 70s in Japan, which was very flat, very emotionless. Oh no, it is Gekiganger 3. Here, we must fight him now.
Voice.
Yeah, just nothing. But for the English dub, they did those wonderfully, absurdly over the top 70s speed racer. Yes, go Gekiganger 3. It's wonderful. So whichever dub you're listening to, you get this wonderful experience of just really terrible, intentionally terrible dubbing. It's impressive stuff. Really. Thanks for joining us, Dark Devil. Hey, there we go, Dark Realm, Nadesico. Gotta love Nadesico. You did a pretty good job with the Dragon Ball Z Kai dub, they're saying. That's good. As most of you know, I'm not really a DBZ follower. Just not my thing. Can I zoom up that at all? Is that? Oh, there we go. That's a little better.
Wow. Oh, now I can read it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't get a lot of anime games. They just don't really come over here much.
Samurai Champloo.
Oh, love Samurai Champloo. So here's a question for everyone here, for Evan in the chat room. I'm doing a presentation, which I'm tentatively calling, if you liked that anime, watch this.
Oh.
So I'm saying, if you like Cowboy Bebop or Evangelion or whatever, here are other shows to watch in various veins. And one of the shows I'm starting with is if you liked Samurai Champloo, and so I list some samurai shows and so forth. But here's the thing. How well known is Samurai Champloo anymore?
Well, it was on Adult Swim.
It was. But I don't know how many modern anime fans remember that. I mean, has it passed?
Back
No.
Anime on Adult Swim was
it was on television
on standard definition.
I remember Sci-Fi Channel Saturday mornings. But I don't know if that show has now passed into a realm where a lot of folks just haven't heard of it.
Well, I would hope it hasn't, but potentially the idea of if you like this, you like these, will spark a thread of well, I don't know that first one, but I know the second one or the third one.
Yeah.
And I'd like to check out that first one that he said. What was that?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Are you going to go by genre then, or?
It depends. So for things like Cowboy Bebop, I'm going by the different kinds of genre in Bebop.
I do too. It's awesome, Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely, Lindsay. Yeah. Fantastic show. So I have an example of a show that is very much focused on relatively realistic mafia / triad stories. So that kind of gunplay, John Woo kind of stuff. And then I have another which is more fun, adventure-y, sci-fi, bounty hunter kind of stuff. And then I have another one that is more fun action adventure, just sort of broad sci-fi, like Outlaw Star, for those of you who've seen that.
Outlaw Star. Outlaw Star is a classic.
Exactly. But
it follows right in the space bounty hunter category. Space Dandy. Space Dandy's.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Kind of following in that vein.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Guys bouncing around space, bumming around in their ship. They've got bounties. They're picking up strange aliens.
I gotta remember to put that one in.
And there's some really interesting stories and animation in that. They vary from they go into some abstract areas, which is very adventurous from an animation standpoint, because there's potential to lose some viewers because of the degree of abstractness, and it's nice from an artistic spectrum to be able to go there and see that, and then still bring back a series to a normal level and variation within the style.
Yeah, no, absolutely agreed. It's a really fun one. Yes, exactly. Fourth Piece, One Gun Midnight for initial. I remember watching One Gun Midnight and thinking it's One Piece. I mean, it's Initial D. That's what it is. Just finished watching it. That's cool, Paul. Yeah, Gekiganger is absolutely a Go Nagai parody. That is very much the thing. Card Captor Sakura, of course. One of the great magical girl series. That's sad people don't remember it. That is one of the ones that, you know,
I remember hearing about it. I've never seen it.
It's a fun show. We should watch it one of these days.
Gotta add that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sakura is so Sakura is one of the shows I bring up when folks talk about Madoka Magica as being this show that dared to deconstruct the magical girl genre. And I'm like, I can name 4 or 5 shows that have done that before Madoka Magica came out, and Sakura is a good example where it's parodying magical girl and having all sorts of fun with it. That's an interesting thought there, Kaiser Dramont. Oh, is Sakura the most iconic Clamp series? I'm not sure I'd agree with that. That's an interesting thought. So for those who aren't familiar, Clamp is a studio of female manga creators.
Oh,
yes. And so they've done, they did Magic Knight Ray Earth, Sakura, Holic, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle, X. I think what other well-known anime works that have come out of them. But yes, Angelic Rare, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few that the chat room will remind me of. Yeah,
with an all female group designing, is it from the creative stage all the way through?
So I'm not sure about that. I know that generally speaking they'll have one person as the lead on any given project, and she'll bring in others as she kind of needs them.
But a woman making the executive decision, we're taking the story this way, we're taking it that way.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
As I understand it, Clamp is almost more of an artist collective, where they are several women who've all come together to produce stuff, but each one of them is working on a given project at any given time. But they're kind of all there together, so they can all help each other as necessary.
Nice.
Yeah, it's right. They did the character designs for Code Geass. That's another one I'm thinking of. Yeah, if they were in charge of it, that would have been a very different series. Very interesting series. Another show I've never finished. I should finish Code Geass one of these days. I do. Yeah, Kobato is another Clamp series. Good point. Nothing else. Anyway. But so Mexican Otaku brings up Toonami. Yeah, Toonami is definitely one of those experiences that if you watched it, you remember it. You absolutely remember. What was your first Toonami show that you remember?
I don't. I'm thinking through. Well, you know, it's kind of strange for me because I had a Toonami in the background while I was cleaning out the garage for a long stretch of time. And so I'd hear things in the background that I wasn't really paying attention to. And I said, what is this anime stuff? I had a cable connection. I had an old TV, and it was more exciting than C-SPAN. so I had it playing in the background, and that kind of got me back into the whole anime thing, because I go way back with the Galaxy Express stuff that I cut my teeth on, and Star Blazers. So it was kind of a reintroduction to what's going on in animation, Japanese animation. Oh, what is this show? I saw this. I heard that song yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Chobits. Thank you.
Chobits.
Sailor Moon. Chobits. I had issues with Chobits when it came out, but that is just kind of the way things are. Yeah, if those not familiar, Chobits is a show where where personal computers are actual like human-sized androids walking around, and the on switch is in a very specific location on the androids.
Where might that be?
Ask Yamada, just to let you know. Yeah. So that kind of yeah. But definitely, I mean, it's a joke, obviously, but yeah, Code Geass is an interesting show. I mean, that was definitely Sunrise trying to push the envelope for drama in a show, of trying to sort of top themselves with every episode and just make it the most over the top, exciting, kind of ridiculous giant robot show that they'd ever done. Sunrise tends to be a little more conservative, and this was kind of, okay, how close can we get to like Dragon Ball Z with this? How over the top can we get with this show? Which is probably just part of the fun. Have you seen Code Geass?
I've seen episodes, but I haven't followed. And my personality, I like to start at the beginning of an anime and just binge watch and just devour, because I get it enthralled into a series, and I hate to put it down and wait any more than I have to. Okay, if I have to go to work, okay, I'll come back. Okay, where'd I leave off? Skip the open. I saw that already. Okay, I know all the previous what happened last week. Okay, so
yeah, definitely cool. So question for the chat room: what do you think of this format that we're doing, where we're doing 2 episodes per show? 2 episodes per show, one each of 2 different shows, and trying to dive a little deeper into each one. That's kind of our approach with this one. So let us know as we kind of talk that through.
Yeah, it might be fun at some point to possibly interview some industry folks.
Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to.
Have to see what all connections we can dig up. Escaflowne.
Oh, Escaflowne.
I remember parts of that. Escaflowne. You know what I remember? I remember the promos and saying, I want to watch that. That's what I remember.
I was listening to Escaflowne music on the way over here. Actually, I had that playing through Yoko Kanno. I mean, amazing.
Yoko Kanno.
Exactly. We're not worthy. Yeah, and Escaflowne is fabulous. Ed. Exactly. Like Mexican. Yeah, thanks. We're trying to make it a little more podcast like, and I would love to have guests on. I wouldn't mind having some occasional guest hosts too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be great. I think one of the greatest things is having a real time feedback with everybody out there.
Yeah.
So when we get guests in, we can pick their brain. Hey, of course, we try and keep it oriented towards the guest, because they may not know why they were doing what on episode 3, scene cut 4.
I feel so bad when they get those questions. Like, what were you thinking when you recorded that line? Like, I was
thinking my car's double parked. I hope they record this quick because I got to get out and move it.
Exactly.
I wonder what I had for lunch.
Yeah. Like Crispin Freeman said, what am I? An actor. Do actors like work? Yes. Do we turn down work? No. So sure, I'll do the thing. I'll show up. I'll do my lines. And that's the way it is. Yeah, so Dark Realm brain powered soundtrack is my personal favorite Yoko Kanno soundtrack. It's very weird. It's very experimental. It's not what I would recommend to anyone, who wants to get into Yoko Kanno music. But it is very different. Very, very different. Thanks, Liquid Snake. Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, Liquid Snake. Liquid US Snake? Liquid U Snake? I'm not sure. Our gateway to the anime world.
Live event. Which one? Which animes made me, or were the gateway? It's exciting. I saw it. Okay, I'm gonna say I'm real old. When it was on TV in Washington D.C. back in the 70s.
Wow.
And I liked it. I was very young, and I couldn't follow more than a few episodes because I had to go to school. And,
that's the problem with that show. Yeah.
And so I saw it and I enjoyed it, but I can't really say it got me in the way Galaxy Express did. Galaxy Express was a little bit older when it was in the theaters, and there was something about it. And I finally got a copy recently, and I started listening to it, and it sounds kind of period piece now,
Sure.
but it really Japanese animation again. Years later, I said, "Oh, okay, the roots." Oh, but it's exploded. There's so many other things, and of course, seeing what's gone on with it since then, just phenomenal.
Yeah.
What was it? What was your?
So similar in structure. Mine growing up was Voltron.
Voltron,
Defender of the Universe. Love that. That's narration to that right now. But I'll spare you. I think for me it was the combination of kind of the science fantasy of it. Yeah, exciting science fictional elements, but also it's in a castle. There are these, lions. So it hit a neat set of kind of genres for me. But of course, I had no idea it was from Japan. And then
it's just good animation.
It's just a fun show. And then I'm trying to think that the next big thing was the Sci-Fi Channel started showing what they call their festivals of anime. And so in the summer, they would spend a week prime time showing in the evenings either 2 anime movies back to back or one OVA. And just grabbing stuff that had been licensed. And so they showed, I remember the one that really brought me in was, I think, their second year of this. And they showed the first Tenchi Muyo movie. I'd never seen it before, but I had no idea what was going on, but I liked the animation and so forth. And then, Tenchi Muyo, there we go. And then Project Echo, which is this goofy sci-fi comedy, and Dominion Tank Police, which was an OVA that was this, again, kind of goofy sci-fi comedy that right in the middle took this hard right turn into this very serious, dramatic, thoughtful sequence about basically a genetically engineered person in a lab and dealing with all these things.
Thinking about those.
It's amazing stuff. Just completely serious, thoughtful sequence, like 10 minutes of this OVA. And so that told me, okay, I'm intrigued. I need to check out more. And then a couple years later, I had my wisdom teeth pulled out, and I had just gone on Amazon like a couple weeks prior, and they had just opened their anime section, and they had the Tenchi Muyo DVD collection, which for only $99, you got the first 2 Tenchi OVAs. And so I bought that, and it was sitting there, and I was in such excruciating pain, followed by complete numbness, that I just popped that in and just watched it straight.
I love the opening music to Razafon.
Razafon.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Razafon music. I play that over and over.
There we go. So Liquid US. Oh.
So it seems a lot of us we've had the experience where we've experienced it. We haven't really understood what it was, and then we get reintroduced to it and we dive back in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's one of the great things about the past couple of decades is that anime has been around for so long. It's been on TV. There have been so many opportunities for us to stumble across it that you can have those experiences of seeing it and then go away and come back and eventually get your way in. It's really fun. lot of 90s anime kids, so to speak. And that's another thing too. I think for a lot of us, it took us a long time to, and I know a lot of folks who are more recent fans, they grew up with a lot of anime. And they watched Pokemon and Digimon and Dragon Ball Z and all these shows.
Oh, it was hard to find early on. There was the one shop somewhere that had a poster in the window, and you couldn't see much past the poster.
Usually Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon. And, I remember some of the Asian stores that had rows of video cassettes that were duplicates of the original, and they'd rent out the copy of it.
Totally legit. Totally legit. And it was tough to find a lot of that stuff, and you had to really hunt for it. And when I was first getting into it in the 90s, what was the music company that had the stores? Sam
Goody.
Sam Goody.
Oh yeah,
right.
Sam Goody.
And they would have a shelf, and it would be Dragon Ball Z, maybe Sailor Moon, Akira.
Oh, Akira.
Maybe Ghost in the Shell. And that was about it. And it would expand from there. But it's and there's so many opportunities now, and with it being streamed, you can find it online. Netflix has a lot of anime these days.
I'm just amazed how many series there are, trying to keep up with them.
And of course we now have the wonderful experience that now we can go and get fan subs of every show. It's broadcasting right now in Japan. It's unbelievable.
The internet has really changed a lot of things. I mean, no longer is it looking through small shops and bargain bin. Hey, look at this. What is this? Or VHS copies of a copy that a friend had. Check it out.
Or you had to go to a convention because that's the only place that you could find
conventions.
Or they were showing it.
I got a bootleg.
I was talking to a guy who was involved in the early con scene, and he said, back then in like the 60s and 70s, you had to find somebody who had it on film because there were no tapes.
Wow.
So somebody had an 8mm.
Was the way things were done. Before the advent of the VHS and Betamax. Videotape was not in the hands of most people, and film chain was. So. It's Crunchyroll.
Yep.
Crunchyroll is a fantastic thing.
It that still amazes me that a site that got started as the one of many of these illegal streaming sites went legit, and they're now one of the most important websites out there. And Ghibli is certainly a very big part of it for a lot of people now. And now that thanks to Disney, let's be honest, for licensing those and bringing them over.
Yes.
I'd like to know. I realized this recently. Sometime after, so for those unfamiliar, you're probably familiar with this. So Studio Ghibli's films, when Hayao Miyazaki and all those folks. Famously, one of them was dubbed and released over here. Nausicaa of the Valley of Wind was released as Warriors of the Wind over here as a VHS tape in the very early days. And it was very, shall we say, significantly reworked for that release. And apparently Miyazaki was horrified by this. And so he said, none of my films will ever be released in America. And then eventually Disney came in and said, we promise we'll do it right. We promise we won't edit it, all that kind of stuff. And they eventually managed to make it work. But there was a release of Totoro back in the, I know it was after Warriors of the Wind, and it was before that Disney deal done by Fox. And they did a dub. It's still my favorite dub of Totoro. And I'd love to know how they got the rights to that. It is unedited.
Wow.
But it's strange. They somehow managed, because it came out on DVD. It's odd.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how things come out. There's the process has become more refined, it seems, over the years as more relationships have been developed business wise. And it was Liquid Snake. You mentioned earlier how to pronounce it. I didn't. Sorry,
Liquidus Snake. I think
Liquidus Snake. Liquidus Snake.
Liquidus Snake. Okay.
That area of fan subs is a huge subject because fan subs provide a service.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's always the concern that the copy holders have that, you know, they've got the dual concern of, I don't want to give it away, but I want it to be promoted. And fan base is one of the vehicles that can do both.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. And when we see a release that comes out that's really well done, it's fantastic because it supports it. If something comes out that's done by fans and it doesn't help, then sometimes I think that delays its release.
Yeah.
And I wonder if something like that may have occurred. Finally, something got through that was good, but then the licensing say, well, you know, I don't know. The evolution of these things seems to be something that would be fun to research.
Definitely. Yeah, it's complicated. And further complicated by the fact that, I mean, nobody wants to talk about, you know, all of the backroom deal. Oh, I say backroom dealing, but just, you know, all of the back and forth of
the
dealing
business
with people.
deals. Yeah. who does what to get what license where, and what negotiations go on.
Yeah, and you know, who wants to be the first person to say, well, they were really difficult to work with?
Yeah, nobody wants to do that because then the future business is cut off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, those visual novels. Yeah.
Yeah, the visual novels are just. I'll be honest. I've gotten to the point where I've bought one or two visual novels, but usually I will download and play the fan sub because I know it'll work. And then if I can actually play it and get into it, then I can go back and buy it. But it's very rare for me to buy one sight unseen for that same reason. A lot of them don't work very well, unfortunately. Yeah, that's how I watch I Tenchi Muyo myself. Liquidus Snake is fan sub.
Yeah. I have to admit, there's a number of different titles that I have trouble pronouncing.
Sure,
I've never figured out. It seems that sometimes titles are different and get changed once they get licensed in the U.S.
Yeah,
and I always wonder how that happens.
Yeah, and that's a whole complex, process where the English licensor has to come and say, okay, well, here's how that accurately translates. Here's how that people are actually going to respond to that. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's certain words that you don't want the sound of one language to make a misinterpretation of what it is.
Yeah. Radical Edward brings up "Oh My Goddess," where the original title is Megami-sama, and Megami-sama is literally goddess. Exactly. And so it was translated as "Oh My Goddess." And then somebody came along and said, "You've got to call it 'Oh My Goddess.' I mean, that's just the perfect thing." And somebody went and they said, "Well, but that's not the original. That's not the title. That's not what it is." And so somebody went back to the original mangaka eventually and asked him about it. And he said, "I had no idea that idiom of 'Oh my God, oh my goddess' in English." Absolutely do it. That's awesome. That's really funny.
Oh, that's great.
But you don't. They don't always know. So you got to figure that one out. Any upcoming anime we are watching or waiting for? Well, I'm watching the Yuki-chan series, Disappearance of Haruhi of Nagato Yuki-chan. Enjoying that one a lot. I checked out the new what's it called? Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? That was a fun one. Yeah. It's weird because it's set in an MMO world explicitly. Like characters pick up things and level up and talk about leveling up, but they're not they're people that talk about leveling up. It's strange. And of course, they cute girl shows up in a dungeon. But that's a fun show. Yeah, and I'm very curious about the Digimon 15th anniversary anime series. I'm very much interested in that one. Are there any shows you're aware of that you're interested in?
Well, I'm still finishing up Shirobako.
Nice, yeah.
And I really like that. The ones that talk about how things are done are always exciting to me.
Yeah.
So I'm open to different suggestions too.
Ah, nice. Yeah. We'll have to figure that one out. War on Gemini is a it is a Tenchi series, but no, War on Gemini is definitely not the first Tenchi series. Tenchi Muyo Ryoki OVA 1 was, which we were just watching. Yeah, I know a lot of folks who are enjoying the new Sailor Moon series. So for those not familiar, there's a current series called Sailor Moon Crystal. I guess it just ended. There's a remake of the Sailor Moon series, and it's gotten some controversy for being more shiny and more modern. But that's kind of the way things are these days.
What's your take on total CGI?
So my take on that has kind of changed over time. As with anything, I'm fine with CGI as long as it's done in a way that effectively tells the story, and is, for lack of a better word, pretty. The problem with CGI for a long time is it was very plasticky and it was very stiff, and it just didn't get across what it needed to get across. But when when it's done effectively, then that's cool with me. I mean, Ruby RWBI is I think that's gorgeous. Lots of good stuff there. But then I got into anime because it's 2D animation. It's traditional animation. So that is my love. Oh yeah, that's cool. They did the meetup for so Shirobako is this anime series about an anime studio, and they did a little meetup for the people who were the inspiration for the characters in Shirobako.
Cool.
So a bunch of the different people showed up from different studios and so forth to do that. Kind of fun. Gundam X is fun. I have checked out Blood Blockade Battlefront, actually. I did watch the first episode of that. That's very interesting. It is a sort of Trigun-ish thing.
I did dig Trigun.
Yeah, but it's set in sort of a modern New York with lots of weird monsters in it.
That sounds fun.
It is a lot of fun and kind of over the top. OST for okay, interesting. Yeah, Viz is re-releasing Sailor Moon, the original one. So it's going to take a while for them to get their way through that. But yeah, there's fun stuff. But I've got, I don't know, dozens of shows I'm part way through. So I still haven't finished Yurikuma Arashi from last season, Lesbian Bear Storm. For those who are curious what that one is. Which everyone laughs, but then that's actually the plot. That is exactly the plot. It's about lesbians who are also bears who are worried about an oncoming storm. I mean, that's just
wow.
Love anime.
You can go so many places with anime.
Yes,
you can't go in
real life. Yeah, Prison School looked interesting from what I was seeing of the concept, but it's always more anime out there than you can actually watch, and that is the reality. Cool. All right. Anything else, or should we move on for the night?
Can we give our listeners some homework for next episode?
Yeah. So next episode, we're going to be watching episodes 3 of the original Tenchi Muyo OVA and Yamada's First Time. So if you guys want to check those out, I know they are. I'm pretty sure they're both streaming on. I know Tenchi's on Funimation. I think Yamada is on Crunchyroll. So try Funimation or Crunchyroll and see how those go, and watch those and come back. And if you haven't watched the first episode,
awesome.
go for it. Oh, Wolf's Rain, yes. Stray. Yeah, and agrees. Shirobako is integrated CGI. And of course we see CGI a lot for vehicles, cars, things like that, which makes sense. You need a lot of movement in those, and why hand draw that? Yeah, I have a friend who hates Wolf's Rain. It's a shame.
Oh,
yeah, he didn't get it. One of those things. But yeah, that's it. So that is the plan for next week. And I think next week we're going to talk about particularly the music. Of those shows. So we'll see what we can suss out about the musical quality of both of those shows. Music has quite an effect on a show, actually. Yamato should be on Netflix. Gotcha. Cool. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Anything else? I think we're good to
go. So let's see. This was Smoke and Mirrors.
This is Smoke and Mirrors.
Smoke and Mirrors.
That is. Yes. Cool. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to Higurashi is a fun one. Very, very, very dark, but fun one. That's an interesting point about Mizushima. I hadn't noticed that about his use of CGI. I'll have to dig into that, actually. I was not really paying attention to Mizushima and CGI. That's a whole nother world, is directors and animators and their use of CGI.
Yeah, I'm kind of divided on the whole thing. So
yeah,
well, like you said, if it adds to the story, and the whole uncanny, realistic, sort of thing. I think we're still kind of finding our stride with the technology and where it fits in, and I think it'll go through a growing phase, kind of like animation did with certain shorthand to represent things. I think there'll be some sort of a growing curve like that. So hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting also seeing a good example of that is the Gundam franchise and seeing their experimentations with CGI, where they did CGI for Mecha. They did some CGI for some of their characters and some OVAs, and they backed away from that. So they still do all hand-drawn humans. They still do mostly hand-drawn mecha, but with CGI for really complex battle scenes or really complex shots. So we'll see how all that kind of works out in terms of how to make it work. It's a tricky thing. It really is. Like you say, it's you got to make it look right. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to move on and we have some other things to talk about, I think, this evening. But thank you, and we will be back. Are we going to do this again next Tuesday, or what is the plan there? I forget. Do we have anything worked out for that, or will we just let everyone know?
We've hammered out the details yet.
Okay.
So we may have to hammer out those details.
Yeah. I will post a video at some point. Probably once we've hammered out the details about when we'll be doing this next. But we are planning on doing this regularly, so we'll figure it all out. But keep your eyes open, and we will keep on doing this. So
feedback welcome.
Yes, feedback absolutely welcome. Let us know. Actually, you know what I can do? Let's see here. I think there is a So email that. You can't quite see it. That's okay. Email Brent@BrentNewhall.com if you have any comments or questions or thoughts and such. And thank you all for joining us. And more coming. See you guys.
Sayonara.
Bye. Bye.